Let's get insights on where the fintech sector in India is headed and explore what more can investors and governments do to strengthen this ecosystem. Once again, I'd like to invite on stage Leslie Demont, Executive Editor, VCCircle, and he is in conversation with Upasana Taku, co-founder and COO MobiKwik. Please.
Hi, friends. If you remember, we just had a lovely conversation on the great tech wave. Now, one part of that great tech wave is also the fintech sector. And I was looking at some of the figures which I was confirming with. So I have Upasana Taku, who is the co-founder and CEO of MobiKwik, a major leading fintech player in the segment. Now, if you look at some of the figures, one, of course, that the Indian fintech sector is the third largest globally. So that itself amounts for a lot. In India, too, other than edtech, a lot of funding has gone into fintech. The overall market size of the Indian financial services segment was $500 billion in 2021. The fintech market touched $31 billion, according to a Blink investment report. Now, Indian fintech industry has been able to receive more than 25% of all the startup funding within India. Now, that itself, I think we need to give us an applause for the sector, please. So 23.7 billion kind of total funding raised in India. I think there are some 10 unicorns, some 52 unicorns, and the areas are like digital payments, digital lending, insurance, investment tech, neo-banking, banking infrastructure, and so many more other things. Now, MobiKwik, which is one of the largest mobile wallets in India, is also, I think, one of the largest or the leading player in the buy now, pay later, BNPL segment. I think some 24 or 25 million users that you have. So Upasana promised me before walking up that let's make it a little of the fun. So this is the last session of the day. Let's make it a little fun segment. How much more fun can you make it in the fintech sector? What's happening in that?
So, see, I think this is an investor conference. So fun is all about money and making money. So it's about getting a return. I think it's not just about fintech in India drawing the largest amount of FDI recently, and also in terms of unicorns that you mentioned. But I think you should all keep in mind that out of the 800 plus unicorns globally, the largest, 162 plus, are from fintech. So fintech is exploding globally. And if I could say, while fintech India is the third largest fintech market right now, I totally expect that in the next 5 to 10 years, India fintech will be the largest market. And there's a reason for that, guys. It's very simple. A billion people country, 600, 700 million Indians have a bank account. But we all know that the number of people who have credit is in the range of 50 to 70 million. Number of people who have access to insurance, savings products, investing products, everything is sub 10%. So 90% market available, many players can be created, can flourish. If there is a sector on which you should go long only, it has to be fintech. And within that, I would say fintech India, because we are all sitting here in India, I would say that short-term incidents and performance of one or two players cannot be the basis of creating trust or mistrust on a sector. One has to really take a view of the number of companies till date, every day, every month getting formed and collecting checks from investors and building innovative products. So fintech India, whether you like it or not, the government is totally in the favor of digital India. I'm saying even if it weren't, half the country is 25 years of age or younger. India is bound to go digital. मैं कुछ करूँ या नहीं करूँ. Indian fintechs कुछ करें या ना करें. This country is going in the direction of fintech, and that's just it. That's just a fact. Can't do anything much about that.
It's a very strong pitch. And I like the way you made this pitch, because I think it's very interesting from a point of view of looking at the digital ecosystem, the way, I mean, Vikash did speak about it from SoftBank, about the numbers that we have, the internet numbers that we have, the number of smartphone users that we have, number of apps that we have, and the entire digital mindset that we all have. Today, people just swipe. Even a small little guy sitting on the corner has that, swipe a QR code and do the payments. Now, you also made a very interesting statement saying that, when we look at this market, just the action of one or two players should not reflect on the entire thing. We'll not take any names out here, but we all know that the fintech sector, the running is not as smooth as it should have been. Given the fact that the fintech till 5 to 7 years, we hardly heard about fintechs, but they have already disrupted the banking sector, made the banking sector sit up and take notice. And also at this point in time, as we rightly, when we were talking earlier also, you all are also complementing and filling in those gaps. Now, can you explain a little as to what kind of gaps do you see as you go further? You have already, from the fintech sector point of view, you have already filled in a lot of gaps. So what are the other kind of gaps that you're looking at to fill in?
See, there are very simple and basic gaps even today. See, UPI has happened. Digital payments is the first bastion of fintech. Today, 300 million Indians are transacting digitally. When we started 10 years ago, 10 million Indians used to transact digitally. So we have come a long way. But I mean, we are at the tip of the iceberg. When we speak about, a loan getting disbursed instantly, until 2 years ago, most banks and financial institutions in India did not think that it was important for a credit product to be disbursed completely digitally. There used to be paperwork and physical process associated with it. But COVID has changed that. Eyes have opened at the largest financial institutions also. And that's where a fintech and an incumbent institution partnering, is creating rapid impact. In addition to this, you see a lot of companies now looking at solving things for the small business. You see whether it is working capital, whether it is credit for the merchant, all those things happening. Then you look at very interesting innovations that people are doing for young India, so to speak, which is that, save a little bit, invest a little bit in MF, invest a little bit in gold, but whatever it is, create the habit of investing digitally. Almost like you are keeping a habit of, exercising. That's the way that culture is getting built. If you think about the larger sort of, the larger thought there, I would say, is that several years ago, we saw banks getting created in India, right? Today, we have in the range of 100 banks or more. 20 years ago, we saw NBFCs, etc., getting created. Today, we have so many large NBFCs. I think that is the way you should think about fintech as well. The number of problems that are there even today in terms of fintech in India, they require lots of large companies to come in, build, and fill in those gaps. You should expect that just like you can count the top NBFCs in the country that have gotten formed and have scaled up in the last 20-25 years, you will see similar things happen in the next few years. This concept of completely digital bank, neo-bank, open bank, whatever you want to call it, abhi tak we don't have that license in India. So, Singapore has it, UK has it, many global countries have created that framework. We haven't seen that in India. But I would tell you that that is one macro, that is one trend that I think is going to come together. Because what's happening, like even if I look at my own company or if I look at some other peers, we have licenses for payments, we have licenses for doing lending, we have licenses for doing insurance distribution. Someday all of this is going to come together and a digital bank kind of framework is what is going to evolve. Digital distribution, digital banking, the way it had been imagined 10 years ago is going to completely change 10 years out. Because those are products not being created for people like you and me. These are products being created for an India that is not yet served fully on financial services.
But when there's such a big opportunity, and when I look at those numbers, now for instance, like India is $16.5 billion, 10 unicorns. But when I look at UK and Ireland, it's $45.73 billion with 18 unicorns. Look at China, it's $61.2 billion with 28 unicorns. And when I look at the US, it's $207 billion with 94 unicorns. So what is it that we're doing right? We have already mentioned. What is it that we need to do better, or we are not doing as well as the other companies, other than, of course, that licenses part of it?
So see, there are 2-3 things. I think firstly, in India, we have a very nice sort of microcosm of innovative entrepreneurs, regulatory bodies, financial institutions coming together and creating products and services which are completely disruptive and at the same time have mass appeal, mass adoption. Now, in China, when the fintech revolution came several years ago, the regulatory frameworks were not as set in standard. So they got a lot of opportunity to disrupt and do sort of go freewheeling in a manner before the frameworks were created. That is not the case in India. You know, from the beginning, you know, the number of P2P lenders in India is very small, and the scale is also not very substantial. But the P2P lending guidelines were already well documented several years ago. Similarly, in many sectors, our guardrails are already created. I'm not saying that it's wrong. It's good to have guardrails that creates trust for the consumer, trust for the first-time adopter of digital. But I think that it will take a little bit of time. We have seen progress in the last 10 years. I think the level of progress you will see in the next 10 years is going to be at least 5x stronger and faster than what we have seen in the last 10 years. You have to wait for India to have 500, 600 million digitally transacting people. And that's when you will see the magic coming together. All these valuations, these returns will start coming in, but you have to invest now.
Okay, but while we are going to have that kind of patience, and perhaps the entire community, the government policies and everything will fall in place, we will have the patience. But one of the concerns as of now is basically that while fintechs are making revenue, I mean, not only the fintechs, it's all about all startups for that matter, tech startups, the overall startup system, is that while you all make revenue, profits are not that easily coming. So where are the profits, and when do investors actually see profits?
So see, I won't say that profits are not necessarily coming. I'm happy to inform you that we just turned first quarter profitable in December 21. I also know that there are several merchant side fintechs that are profitable. There are quite a few actually. I think that in a consumer business, to expect from day one there will be profitability, I think that will be a little amateurish. If you want scale, then you have to wait for the business to scale before it can start generating profits. We are seeing that with scale, operating leverages coming in, and so profits will quickly build up as the revenue keeps scaling rapidly. I would say that what the investor community should look for is founders and teams that have the right fundamentals and where they are trying to build a business which scales at positive contribution margin. I think that would be a key guiding principle for a consumer-facing fintech. I think you have to allow the companies to grow a little bit, but cash burn also can be done in the right way. Not all cash burn has to be where, you know, paisa bas uda diya aur uska koi return nahi hai. I think you can invest smartly, and entrepreneurs can also build smartly.
And when do we see more fintech IPOs? Like a lot of these IPOs, I mean, overall, again, this also is applicable to the entire startup sector, the back burner for now, yours including. So when do we see these kind of IPOs giving more money in the hands of investors also?
So I think 21 was a remarkable year, right? We saw quite a few tech IPOs come to the market and do really well. I think Zomato, Nykaa all set the stage. And of course, we are where we are right now, thanks to you know, the conflict and everything else happening from a global perspective. I think that many companies in the consumer tech and fintech area are ready. They have scaled, they have substantial revenues, you know, upwards of $100, $150 million annually. And those are, many of those companies also profitable, by the way, in our peer group. Many of them are ready. They have their DRHPs filed or approved. So I think they are all waiting for the markets to be normal and not as volatile as they are right now. And hopefully as those markets stabilize, we should see another flurry of tech IPOs come to the market, and hopefully they'll be able to get the trust of the investor community.
Good. I'm glad to see that kind of bullishness out there, and it makes a lot of sense also. It's good for the entire ecosystem. We can take a couple of questions before we wind up for the day. Anybody who wants to ask a question?
I think people are waiting for their beer or wine or choice of cocktail.
Okay. So I guess they're making you get off lightly, and I think we should take the cue. So thank you very much for your time, Upasana. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I like the honesty of the answers out there. And I'm sure people would understand where the fintech sector is going. I think the important take-homes here is that, yes, the fintech sector has been going through its ups and downs, but so has every other company, so has startups, and we are seeing an uncertainty in the overall kind of market. There's a whole pandemic out there, still to turn endemic, and there's the Russia-Ukraine war that is there, which nobody knows how it's going to pan out. So among all the uncertainties, there are these startups that are doing their best to keep their head above water and also make profits in the thing, however meager they are. So please give her a big hand.
Thank you.